Good morning, good morning, good morning. Oh. Well, normally I'd have to worry about the first notification being something that makes noise. But of course today, the one day I don't mute it, is also when we have a winner, but congratulations. Congratulations, congratulations, congratulations. Good morning, good morning, good morning. How is everyone doing today? So you know what that means. It's we have another winner on a subscription. Thank you so very, very much. We'll gift another subscription to the community. How's everyone doing today? Alright, let me go gift another sub to the community. There we go. I'm very sorry. I was not expecting there to be a winner right away. My apologies for allowing it to run. Why haven't you gone to sleep yet? You all need to start going to sleep. If I find out that you're waiting for me to stream to go to sleep, I might just have to start timing people out in the mornings. Maybe ban certain people who I know are not going to be asleep. Just so they can only come in the afternoon streams. Sleep is important. Sleep is important. I'm not worth staying awake for. Okay. Let me drink some tea. If you're watching me right now, go brush your teeth and get yourself ready for bed. Hop your butt in bed and go to sleep. No, chum. I'm gonna be a little bit out of it. Because today's the kind of day where I woke up in the middle of the night with a sinus headache. And so, of course, I woke up with a very slight sinus headache. But also, so very, very tired. Well then, let's go through our list. Thank you, Silvervang, for getting first. Thank you, Catherine, for getting second. And thank you, Paranormal Dove, for getting third. I'm all impressed by your accounting abilities. And hello and good morning to everyone who checked in. So, good morning, Luna Rain, and Ellie, and Silvervang. Good morning, Paranormal Dove, and Onyx, and Echo. Good morning, Meow, and Honey, and Pandragon, and Naptime, and My Chemical Flame. Good morning, Angel, and Yoshihiko, and Sinful. Good morning, Buttertube, Ink, Keely, and Sagona. Good morning, Casey, and thank you for the stump, Buttertube. Good morning, Julia. Good morning, Fullmetal Brookie, and Chub. And good morning, Gojo, and Azuki. Good morning, good morning, good morning. And thank you for the gifted samba. Let's see who gets it. Crazy. Another sub goal achieved. Another sub goal achieved. This morning is the EP stream. So if you're not wanting to be EP, my apologies. hope you enjoy my voice now. I also do different accents, so you might not like it. Alright. It is time. We're gonna keep playing the game we played yesterday. Crime Scene Cleaner. Should be fun. Should be fun. I've been enjoying it a lot. We're also waiting for a book to arrive. So we will start doing book readings coming up soon. I spoke with an indie author, and I asked them if they're okay with me reading their book on stream, and they said they're actually excited about it. So I will be getting the book soon. I wanted a physical copy, so you can hear the noises of the book being opened and closed and all of that. I do read on some streams, yes. One of the goals when we do the fundraiser for the new model will be a permanent evening stream. That'll be a book reading stream, a bedtime story stream. So instead of doing, as we are currently, 2 streams daily, it'll become 3 streams. It's a sci-fi book, so it should be fun. But yes, this is the morning stream. It's a nice, chill, relaxing stream to help you wake up or go to sleep. And today we're playing Crime Scene Cleaner. If you want a more energetic stream, the streams we do in the afternoon, 4 p.m. MST to 6 p.m. MST, are a lot more energetic. Alright. Make sure the volume's good. Perfect. And so today we're going to be cleaning up crime scenes, wiping up blood, getting this place looking nice, in an attempt to raise enough money for our daughter. Now please let me know if the rain noises or the piano noises are too loud or too soft, and I can adjust them a bit. Or if the game good, I'm glad. This time we didn't knock the bucket over. Yesterday was a lot of fun. We were doing the same thing like this yesterday, but I was answering questions about streamer growth, about how to succeed from a small streamer and actually grow. And also, the fact that a lot of streamers and VTubers give awful advice because they already are succeeding. It's hard to ask a person what is the most important thing to do when they are succeeding? You know what, maybe we'll talk a little bit about that while I sit here and do my thing. See, one of the things about asking somebody who's already succeeded what the most important thing to do is that question is very different to them than it would be to somebody who's starting out. Because if you're asking me, as a streamer, what had the highest impact on my growth, what do you think I would say? And feel free not to answer. Feel free to just listen to me ramble for a while. And see, consistency is important, but it's most definitely not the thing that allowed me to grow the most. Engagement, persistence? Honestly, no. Gojo, you got it. You got it. The thing that allowed me to have proportionally the highest growth was kidnapping a bunch of random strangers and making a bit out of it on TikTok. And as a new streamer, you can't do that. Because as a new streamer, you're not going to have the skill, the understanding, the knowledge to crack into something like that. Exactly. And so while it does proportionally have the highest amount of growth, I have more viewers, if I had not done everything else, consistency, building myself as a streamer, practicing streaming as a skill, instead of just, streaming all the time, I could never have done what actually had the highest impact. It's the same thing with so many streamers and VTubers and all that. Because it's not the biggest thing that you did, or the biggest growth, or the hardest thing that actually has the biggest impact on you as a content creator or doing literally anything. It's all the small things that you have to do first. Oh yeah, that too. Obviously, there's a reason why you're never escaping the basement. There was an attempted jailbreak and you missed it. Crazy, right? Which is why this year I'm going to be doing a proposed panel at Offkai called Real Advice from a 5-Time Failure. Because unlike a lot of streamers who succeeded easily or who grew or did super well right at the very beginning, I have done all the wrong things. Over and over and over again, I've done all the wrong things. It's taken me so long to find the right things that I feel I can actually help people who are starting out grow and to learn. Pastry dough. I want pastry. Oh no, there was an escape attempt. It just didn't work. You say you need one more person to help with the escape attempt vividly, but you didn't make it, so yeah. And everybody's in 2 cages at once. I double caged everybody. Would be double bagging. I could go for some Taco Bell. Ooh, that sounds very good. I love puff pastry. I have frequently heard, though, that puff pastry is one of those things that they're like, while it is amazing if you make it from scratch, it also, you know, is the most time-consuming thing, and store-bought is not bad enough to justify making it. That's fair. Well, I can promise it'll only get worse. Oh no, you are vividly. You were just dragged into it while sleeping. Exactly. Exactly. This is fun. I love this game. Tell your nana I say hi. Oh, well, then they just dragged your awake body. You just weren't removing. So, did y'all know that yesterday, I think the dev of the game we were playing came by. I don't know if y'all noticed, but I think that was the dev. Of Glitch Spanker. And funnily enough, I think I went to like 3 different streams, and all of them were like, first off, I got shouted out by 3 different people when I went to their streams, which was cool. And then they saw the game and they're like, what is Glitch Spanker? And so I had to explain to them, well, you just go around and you spank glitches, and like, but that's not all you do. And then there was a dating sim, but it wasn't a dating sim, and all this other stuff. And people are like, I don't understand what this game is. I'm like, you're just gonna have to get it. It's like $20. Oh, this game is so satisfying to play. If they ever make a second one, I will be all on that. And now I'm married to a toilet. You know, it happens sometimes. Sometimes you just marry a toilet. I wanted to see if I could, you know, convince the dev to be like, hey Gene, do you want to do a song together, or do you want to do a thing for this game? And I'm like, I don't know, maybe. That's crazy. But I mean, if you want to. Thank you for the follow, Crying Fairy. Thank you for checking in. I know, right? Me and Spunky. We're gonna lay it down. Very nice, Catherine. Good morning, Xenex. I wonder how it's gonna go. What do you think? Because right now, our dating is going amazing. But I mean, at any second, what if we upset? What if we upset him? Have you hydrated today? I did just hydrate, actually. Funnily enough, You go, Gene, you hydrate, and I'm like, I'm in process of swallowing. Oh, well, good morning, crying. This morning is one of our more relaxed, chill streams. If you want more energetic streams, remember that will be happening in the afternoon. We do 2 streams daily. Would a lovely mod mind redeeming the Gene schedule redeem? I would really appreciate it. Should be exclamation point JS, I believe. I am streaming. The mod's about to fall asleep. There we go. Thank you, nap time. I will also be doing ironically, I do think it's funny that mods do frequently fall asleep to the sound of my voice too, which is just as bad. I need to get a mod who hates my voice. Genuinely, mods have fallen asleep quite often, and then they'll apologize, and I'm like, you know what? That's fair. I appreciate it. But yes, I will be opening up mod applications. Really spoiled the fun. Oh, well, Dar has an excuse. Dar is also, like, actively working while being here. So, Dar, I appreciate you just being here when you're on the clock. So yes, I will be opening up mod applications for the people in the community. It will be, you know, a casual position where you just need to show up for the streams and at least one of the 2 streams. Yeah. Well, you know what they say, Dar. Clock strikes 12. Midnight arrives. Sharpen your axes and pick up your knives. I saw one recently that had all of them. They're so. I feel a little bad for the guy. Not the one who made it, but the rapper who did the, hey people, do you want to rap to my song? Because every one of them was cringe. And like unironically cringe.
Time for a bag swap.
Dar is working at a university right now. I don't know if they're able to tell you much of what they're doing. But remember, unless offered, IRL stuff stays off stream. Going to make sure to come to the afternoon stream, even if it means I'm late. It's fine being late. I will just make fun of you for it. I hope you know that. But Dar does have their own stream. And so if Dar does want to talk about it or bring it up to everybody, definitely go check out Dar's stream. But I know not everyone is comfortable with talking about their workplace and their work. This is so weird. Look at this. Is it there or is it not there? Does this character have lore? This character is a pre-made, but I do have another model that is being worked on that will have its own lore. There's a lot of lore, including why I call stream Voidlings. Thank you for the follow. There'll be a time where I will be separating Gene, the content creator, and Gene, the lore. And that'll be a lot of fun. There might even end up being a book and a comic and all sorts of things. Need for the follow enough. I mean, how many of you have seen the Voidlings so far? Do y'all want to know what the chat mascot looks like, or what chat will look like?
It has probably crashed by now.
Alright, 1 second. Are you ready? I'm only going to show you a bit, but this is what the chat Voidlings look like. There's a whole lore and story behind them. There are 4 types: hearts, diamonds, clubs, and spades, and they come in the light and dark variants. There'll be a guide going out about sonas and about arts, and they do have animal variants, but here's the base. And there you go. So that's what you all look like, little voidlings. And they do have humanoid forms as well, like actual human-looking ones, as they get stronger and more powerful. So as people continue to sub, their appearance will change. But there's a lot more to it than that. And a full guide will be dropped around the time we do the fundraiser. The Voidlings are part of LuckyJene's ability. You see, in the world of LuckyJene, there are heroes and villains, and Gene is a villain. An F-tier villain. But he's working his way up. And the larger we grow as a stream, the more viewers and followers and stuff, the stronger Gene will get. And the further the story will continue. There'll be 2 kinds of streams. We'll have lore streams, and we'll have general streams. On lore streams, I'll be using a 3D model as Gene, And we have streams like this. LuckyJene the creator streams, where I get to hang out and talk. Evil gang. Yes, exactly. I'm trying to get established as a villain. I need the viewers. So I kidnap people. Because the more I have kidnapped, the more we grow. What do you mean more based? Oh, evening based? Oh. So lore streams will be like whole day events. There'll be whole day events. And they will be a spectacle. They'll probably be around they'll probably be like 4 to 8 hours long, depending on the situation. There'll be storytelling and hanging out and that kind of thing. And there'll be audio drops and like an anime style audio drama and a lot of things. But that only can happen once we fund a new model.
Is this just my imagination, or am I seeing a lot of ducks lately?
Both the 3D and the 2D. So we'll see when it does actually happen. Need for the check-in. Right now the time for me is 4:14 a.m. Isakana. Good morning, Pink. Once we hit an average of 50 viewers consistently for about a month, we will start the fundraiser. We'll be doing a 24-hour stream. A real 24-hour stream. Or I'll be even sleeping on stream. Every sub, donation, bit will increase the time. Our goal. Thank you for the check-in. Guten Morgen, Kirsch. Wie geht's? You've been here before, haven't you, Kirsch? I feel like it's been a moment, though. Which is totally fine. I'm half German. Thank you. One of the coolest parts about getting a 3D model is that when it is accomplished, we will get to do VR chat things. That's right, y'all will be able to come hang out with me in VR chat. We'll do community event nights, we'll do meet and greets. You'll get to hang out with me in a virtual space. Because, you know, with a lot of those conventions, I wanted to actually go to them physically, but there's been so many issues with them. And I figured maybe hosting like VR events might be a lot cooler. And VR chat works on PC as well. Like, you don't need to have a VR headset for it.
Need to empty the trash can first.
So you don't have to worry about that. It even works on your phone. And there's so many cool games. I mean, I might just do fishing streams where we all go and sit on a dock and do some fishing and hang out. That is, as long as everybody is, you know, kind, courteous, genuine. But if we get people who are, you know, kind of taking advantage of the situations or being rude or using models that they clearly shouldn't be, then we'll probably end up having to stop doing it. I hope not. But we'll see. I just want to let you all know ahead of time before anything like that does happen. Morning. Try to get some sleep. Try to get some sleep. Last thing content-wise I do want to talk about. I will be doing a series of little TikToks along with the basement series and a few other little short series about being a VTube reviewer, since a lot of you are very new to VTubing. So that should be fun. If there's any questions that you all have, feel free to ask them, and I'll see if I can answer them. Whether if you want to ask me here or on a TikTok or on Twitter, wherever. Oh, hi, Toll. I go by he, they. Chat, what pronouns do you use? Und, Toll Kirsch. Machst du Kirsch oder Toll? Vielleicht war das nicht richtig. She, her, she, they, he, him. Lieber Kirsch, natürlich. Kann machen. Another thing I might be doing is trying to do some language learning streams. And so I might see if I can get some viewers who speak different languages I want to get better at, especially German, where we can just hang out and talk for a while. And the whole stream will be done in that language until I can learn it. On my list right now is going to be just Spanish and German, really. But I'd eventually like to do French, Japanese. My apologies, 1 second. That was awful. I apologize. You hate French? French is a lovely language. Oh, the music that just turned on. You're running low on sustenance? Have you all tried normal food? That's fair. Well, maybe when I learn the other languages I'd like to learn, y'all can practice with me. We can all grow together. Make the world a little bit smaller and larger, but make it easier to communicate with everyone. You can have apple slices. Oh, I've given out blankets. You might not have been here when I gave them out, though. Almost 20k again. Let's go. I kind of want to do some Red Dead today. How are you feeling about Red Dead crowd control later on this evening? The French language does hate dyslexic. You're valid for that one. That's fair. Exactly. Just stack up in a pile. What do you mean? Why are you all like not pile stacking? I haven't beaten it. It looks a lot of fun. Which, by the way, do not spoil the game. I know a lot of people already played the game and know the ending, but I have not. good. You cannot zip the mop water. Man, y'all would hate it. If I ever cuddle with anybody, I put out so much heat. I'm like hot-blooded. So I would just fry everyone. Everyone would die. You would melt.
I think I've seen this film before.
I exist in a space. I exist in any space, and the space becomes warm. Cute. Very cute.
Please, don't come back to life.
I'm hot, sticky sweet. From my head down to my feet, yeah. Thank you for the follow, by the way. Thank you, thank you, thank you. What a goofy goober. Then we gotta go find our blood lamp, unless I have an extra one. Do I have an extra blood lamp? Let's see. We do have an extra blood lamp. Nice. Oops. Thank you for the follow, Kaiser. Kazoo. Kazooks. Welcome to the menagerie. Speaking of, did you know that's what you're called, chat? Individually, you're voidlings, and as a whole, you're menagerie. Because the voidlings have different versions with different animal ears. And so you're all a bunch of animals. My menagerie. Very valid. I lost the bucket. What are you petitioning about? You're petitioning about cuddles. No, I can't frolic with prisoners. You're captives. You get your own space. I'll be too busy trying to maintain the feeding of you anyways. Oh, I know you did. But somebody also tried to get a petition going saying it to let them go. And we know how that went, don't we? Unfortunately, unlike the government, this is not a democracy. Oh, yes, this is Crime Scene Cleaner. This game is Crime Scene Cleaner. go for tacos, genuinely.
I can't put it back like that. I should clean it first.
Alright. Good morning, Chizuru. Sinful, that's a good question. You'll have to see once we get funded. You should definitely eat today. Y'all, if you have not eaten today, make sure you eat. If you need to take your meds, please go take your meds. If there's anything that you need to do, please do so. Okay? Take care of yourselves and take care of your health. It's very important. Take your meds, cuddle your pets. Aww. That's valid. Alright, where's my bucket? I'm glad I was able to remind you then. What words? I like dinosaurs. Dinosaurs are cool. Do you know we have no idea what they look like? Like, at all. Every kind of drawing we do, especially done off like the style of drawings we've done most recently, which are like trying to put skin and flesh over bone, is most definitely not correct. Because if you could do that to anything currently existing, they would look terrifying. I feel that one. You know what I'm talking about, Sinful. You know, there's a very real chance that a T-Rex legitimately looked like a chicken. Like, very similar to an actual chicken. We've recently found out that T-Rexes are scavengers, recently within like the last 10, 20 years. Mood ring hair? I think mood ring hair would be cool. Giant chicken. Because T-Rexes eventually did become chickens. It's the closest ancestor we have. Mm-hmm. And if you look, if you see how a chicken reacts, you can imagine it as a giant dino. The way it'll tear something apart. The way they can be vicious. Exactly, dino chicken nuggets are made from real dinos. Pass it on. Would you pay to eat dinosaur meat? There's a very real chance one day we'll get that opportunity. You know, cloning of meat and such. I'd pay to eat dinosaur meat. Well, I mean, it'd definitely be like, probably like A5 Wagyu prices. It must definitely be a luxury. Not too bad, though. I would eat Galapagos tortoise if we could clone it. That is my goal. If we can clone some certain endangered species that I know taste good, I'd be very happy. I know for a fact Galapagos tortoise tastes good. And every day that I'm not allowed to eat it is a day that I'm not happy. Oh, so, Galapagos tortoise. Yes. Okay, so hear me out. No, here's the story. The Galapagos tortoise, so back in the day when they were naming endangered, or they're naming species, they'd have to take an animal over to the Oxford University, where they would then scientifically name the animal. Well, the problem was, whenever they tried to get the Galapagos tortoise back to Oxford, they kept struggling. They had to go back 3 times because they'd keep eating all of the tortoises before they made it back to England. Charles Darwin wrote an entire page about comparing the Galapagos tortoise with all sorts of other meat and how it doesn't compare, being like it's more tender than butter, it's better than like anything he's ever eaten. Which, if there's something that's that good that you're not going to do your job that you're paid to do, and you're going to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not more, traveling partially across the world, like, I want to taste that. I would 100% try dodo. I imagine dodo is good, but not amazing, you know? Like, it's just like a different kind of chicken or duck. Don't worry, Jimmits. You're not endangered enough for me to eat you. I don't know if you taste good. Now, if you tasted good, though. No, I'd most definitely eat kangaroo, but you can eat kangaroo now. I don't think I'd eat panda. My general view is that carnivores are not tasty. Also, they're very inefficient on energy consumption. For instance, one of the things that they always tell you in biology is that you get 10% of the energy from the sun. So plants convert the sunlight into energy, and the energy that you get from the plants is 10% of what they've consumed. And then if you eat a herbivore, it's 10% of what they consumed. And a carnivore is then 10% of that. So it's probably the least effective way to gain energy. Does those numbers mean anything? I don't know, actually. I don't know if any of it's true, even slightly. But that's why I would not eat a carnivore. I could also go fully vegan and I'd be fine. Thank you for the check-in, Emperor, by the way. Thank you, Pixel, for checking in. I was vegan for about 3 years. Just because my partner was. At the time. But now, I'm no longer with them. And so meat's back on the menu, boys. That's her nap time. Everybody does. Thank you for the follow. Unbay. Yes, not that it matters. Welcome to the menagerie. Well, I tried to take you out to get sunlight, but one of you ran.
There you go.
What, that vegan food on planes is garbage? Because it is. Oh, well, Sakona, you don't need to. If you try to be vegan and you eat like you try to eat the same as a carnivore, yes, you're going to need a lot of supplements. But as a person who was like easily vegan for a while, you just have to actually focus on doing like a vegetable-based diet, as well as, you know, ensuring what you're eating is good. You don't just go to like a fast food place and pick out stuff. But if you eat like, I guess what I'll call a tourist vegan, you know, is trying to just be a carnivore without meat. Where, you know, you're eating like all these fake meats and kind of things. But if you're eating, you know, you're focusing on eating a mixture of beans, nuts, those kind of things to make complete proteins. You're eating veggies that are dense in calories and high in nutrients. It's a lot easier. Protein, vitamin E, and all those sorts of things. There's one or two nutrients that are slightly difficult to get because they are bacteria byproducts on meat. But you also have to make sure that you're eating fresh vegetables and fruits. If you don't eat fresh vegetables and fruits, you will miss out on some of the vitamins and nutrients that you need. Mm-hmm. I mean, to be fair, do you know where I get all my vitamin B12 from? Veganism isn't expensive if you are focusing on fresh vegetables and fruits. I do. Exclamation point Discord. If you're buying, like, again, if you're buying meat replacements, that's different. Good night. You should always eat veggies. Yes. Do you know where to get B12 from, chat? Energy drinks. Energy drinks. That's where I get all my B12 from. Vitamin B and B12.
I should clean it first.
You can have a monster, and it's not actually bad to have a monster.
Things first. Gotta scrub, scrub, scrub.
I think it's funny that we always think about like energy drinks being super high in caffeine and that's where the energy comes from. But in reality, most of the energy probably comes from the fact that it's high in B vitamins. Mm-hmm. And I do take a multivitamin, but I only take a multivitamin because I don't eat a lot of vegetables and fruits as much as I should be. And I sometimes don't pay attention to what I'm eating. Oh yeah, exactly. Vitamin B12 is one of those vitamins that you will pee out if you take too much of. There are not many vitamins that you need to worry about doing a buildup in your system. But one of them that you do need to worry about, I believe, is either A or E. Too much can cause health issues. A, there we go. Certain vitamins just build up in our system, while other vitamins just move through. Yeah, and yeah, 100%. 100%. If you're trying to just replace meat and be a carnivore as a vegan, it will not be an enjoyable experience. But I mean, you go to India, you go to China, you go to any of the Asian countries, and the thing is, they have so many vegan dishes that are naturally vegan that are just amazing. But in the States, and I think a lot of Europe, we're so heavily focused on meats and cheeses that we can't imagine our lives without them. Marvel Rivals is okay, but it's not my kind of game. That being said, I don't want you all to be vegan. You do what's healthy for you and what you feel like you should do. Just as a person who was a meat eater my entire life and kind of had this like really negative opinion about veganism, I had a lot of my biases reevaluated. And so I educate in ways that I can. Which, yeah, that's the thing. If you're looking for vegan replacements, that's where people struggle, I think. Yeah, it's good for the climate. Where's my bucket? Yeah, exactly. This way's gonna be a loud minority. Have a good one. Enjoy college. Let's use my second bucket then. I want a banana too. I'd like some fruit. Yeah, that's fair. My main thing has always been that I want to be able to eat every single recipe in the world. And so I keep, my options open. Morning, Lucy. Have you heard about that? Just something that I was just thinking about. What I used to talk about in college. I hung out with a lot of people of different religions, and one of the things was that a lot of like the dietary restrictions in a lot of religions was due to food quality and that how certain foods react with each other. Like for instance, Judaism avoids dairy and meat because the combination together can cause stomach issues and can cause more like fat to be produced. And additional pork was usually avoided as an unclean animal because pigs would eat anything and quite frequently would have parasites, and so it was legitimately unclean. Last thing, part of the kosher law though is that you cannot mix dairy and protein. That's why if you look at a kosher kitchen, there's actually 2 stoves and 2 everything. So it is, at least what I was told, was that the mixture of the fats and the meats and the proteins and all those different like components of the 2 can lead to like stomach aches and can lead to more fat production when you combine both meats and dairies. But if you keep them separate, they are better for your body to process. But in kosher law, it's one of those things of like it's unclean to do the 2 together. And that's why in kosher kitchens or any Judaism places, you have to have 2 separate stoves, different silverware. They'll have serving dishes that are marked different ways, so that you can tell whether it's dairy or protein in it. And by protein, I mean specifically meat, not any protein. Yeah. Yeah. And pigs at the time were significantly lower quality meat. Which makes me wonder, if we were to have, like the big religious authorities still around, would certain meats be made clean again, considered clean? Not that it matters. I mean, those people are a long, long time dead. But a lot of religious law is made to better benefit the people of the time. So they serve purpose. And even if you are religious, which I'm not particularly religious, it is good to know things and learn things. Experience other people's culture. Understand why they feel the way they do. Makes life a lot more enjoyable when you come off with some common understanding. Valid. Yeah. Culture is great. So much we can learn, understand. Plus, if you get involved in your culture, a lot of cool new foods. Good morning, Emperor Genj. How you doing? Welcome, welcome, welcome. Yeah, for a lot of religious law, yep. There we go. And I like that as well. I like halal meat. Like, if I was given the opportunity to eat only halal meat, I think I definitely would. Because knowing that an animal was slaughtered kinder, that its last moments were nicer, that the process in raising it was treating it a lot better than just raising it in a negative space, I would love that. Speaking of Native Americans, do y'all know about pemmican? Do y'all know what pemmican is? I learned about it not too long ago. But pemmican is one of the things that they say humanity would not have been able to survive without. Is it mixtures of proteins and fats and fruits. It is a food source that is basically one of the early, like, preserved foods. I've always wanted to try to make it. Hello, good morning, good morning. Pemmican. Pemican. Yeah, it's a dried mixture of vegetables, fruits, meats, and fats. Thank you. It's not good. Like, I heard it's not tasty, but it lasts and it's calorie dense. Yeah, please eat some food. But I also like hardtack. I legitimately like hardtack. I like survival food. Because I think food is just so cool, man. Food is so cool. I just think about, like, all the way dishes were made and how much culture influenced it. Like, let's talk about the wok. Do you know why the wok exists? W-O-K. Wok. The rounded pan. Thank you for the follow. War. The wok exists so that people can get quick, and stir frying exists so people on the battlefield can get quick, easy food. It is easy to carry around. It is large, so you can make several portions at once. And the style of cooking is done very quickly and rapidly to make it the perfect thing for war. And so a lot of Chinese cuisine, at least of that area. Good morning, rat. Well, don't choke on fruit snacks. Yes. And that is why, because, like, hot food is very important, be able to cook things quickly and have the nutrients and stuff. And that's why he walks around with a wok. Because it's a mobile, easy to cook thing. You can do a lot of different kinds of foods in it. You can do soups, you can do stews, you can do stir fries, and all sorts of things. But it's most effective if you look at it. It's made to be used over a fire, and that's why it's round. Most pans are made flat because they're put onto a surface. But if you don't have a surface and all you have is a fire, you want something that's going to evenly take heat, aka the wok. The wok is incredible. I'm a nerd for food, okay? I apologize if this isn't as entertaining to some people. I get really excited about certain things, and food is one of them. Because food is so heavily influenced by our culture, and you can tell what people prize and what people don't based on the kind of food they make. And you can kind of tell, like, what they had and what they didn't. I mean, you look at a lot of Asian stuff, there's definitely very little fruits. Island nation, more difficult to run. And what vegetables they do have, or what things they have, and how they produce it. You'd watch Food Talk with me? That'd be nice. Maybe we'll do a food watching stream sometime. I can talk about food and we can look at it. I'm just happy to be here too. I am. This is so much fun. I love streaming. I love being a content creator. I love meeting cool new people. And man, the people I have met are so cool.
I also wonder what some people have in their heads.
Does what include viewers? I love y'all? Yeah, I love y'all. Y'all are fantastic. The stream would not exist without y'all. So many of you are very, very cool. Alright, lovelies. I'm going to take a little 5-minute break here real quick so I can stretch my limbs. Then we'll come back and we'll finish off stream. We all good with that? Okay, I'll be right back. Mwah. welcome back, lovelies. Alright. Keep cleaning. Y'all did amazing. I'm very proud of you. That's fair. It's a fun little game to do. I want to see if I can bring in some more, hangout games like that. So for that one, what you do is you need to guess above a four-letter or higher word, and you keep trying to find the right words. Oh, really? Wow, that is one that I haven't heard mentioned in a long time. That did happen, by the way. That did happen, and it's happened more than once. And then I had the opposite thing happen too, where I thought I streamed. For an hour I streamed and nobody showed up. And I realized, oh, I actually didn't go live. I'm having a great day, Sugar Cakes. How you doing? That was demoralizing, but that's been a long time since I've done that. One of the things of I thought I was having an amazing stream and I was so in the zone. And then I finally look over at chat and there's no chat messages and I'm like, I was wondering why nobody's been talking. What's going on? I guess I'm gonna end stream. I mean, it kind of sucks no one's here, but... And then I went to go end stream and they're like, do you want to start stream? Oh... Oh, for the game? No, the game is in silence. Right now, though, there is soft music playing in the background. So if you are not hearing the soft music in the background right now, your stream might be turned down a little bit too much. Oh, you can't hear the music at all? Can you hear the game at all? Yeah, the game is supposed to be louder than the music. But I guess we can turn up the music a little bit. Fine, I'll turn the music up a little bit or I'll turn the game down. Oh, the game is way too loud. I'm so sorry. Nobody's complained about the game volume. Why has nobody complained? I asked y'all early on, is the game loud? And y'all are like, no, the music and the game volume are fine. And no one responded. I mean, now. Y'all mentioned it now. At the very beginning when I asked, everyone's like, oh, everything's perfect. So I assumed everything was perfect. I have not, Gojo. Where'd you post it? I will also be making a Reddit, by the way. I think we already have one. There we go. So I'll have a little Reddit page that y'all can post art to and things. I just really don't use Reddit much, but I guess I'll need to get Reddit moderators. Is there a Discord channel for art? Yes, there is a Gene art channel. and there is a art channel. Make sure you're posting your art to the art channel. But if it's art of me, you can post it to the Gene Art channel. Oh, okay. Then I'll go check it out there later, I promise. Now, I have a question for all of you. If you were to be able to ask a big VTuber anything at all, what would you want to ask them? I'm talking like a big VTuber. I mean, like a giant VTuber. What would you all want to ask them? How you doing? Their titties? I meant like famous, not. Y'all are adorable. Shut up. Oh, I can tell you. Most models, the big models, are around $10,000 to $8,000. Some will spend upwards to $20,000. Their smaller models are about $2,000 or $4,000. Some of the big VTubers are men. Like, for me to have what I would consider my final model, will cost me $5,000 for the 3D one, probably $3,000 for the 2D one. I'm looking at probably another $2,000 for just a avatar made for VR chat. FR means for real. Modern art. You worked for one of the male giants, actually? Who'd you work for, Spell? Tell me about it. I'd like to know. Bye-bye. And thank you for the follow. What do you mean? What's up, Vanya? You said FR. What curse? Oh, friend request. My bad. Vanya, can you cure the curse? Do you want to cure the curse for me? Oh, I've heard of LuckyJene, yeah. Please, Vanya, can you cure my curse? Don't put that on me. You don't know. I don't think I've ever seen LuckyJene actually, but I know of them. Oh, this one goes here. I'm gonna be. I don't want to be big and greedy. Am I gonna be happy? Yeah. Oh. I keep getting compared to Kenji and this other VTuber. I get compared to Kenji for some reason and some other VTuber. I think it's really funny. Because either, cursed energy or it's hot man. Oh, I'm gonna make a turkey. Kenji is so cool. I'm making a full-on... You know what? Chat, if you were to compare me to any VTuber, who would it be? Any of the big name VTubers? Good night, Pendragon. Voxakuma. I don't know who that is. Rex. You know what's funny? I asked this question and realized I don't know a lot of VTubers. No, Chen, I'm sorry. I will never have big boobas. I will never have big boobas. My boobas will always be reasonably sized. Shoto? Yeah, I'm sorry. Because I like having the cool, like, the slimmer character. My character is always going to be very, like, kind of shonen style, Like, he needs to be able to be in an anime, like the main character in an anime. And not like the big muscular man, but like the dude dealing with dramas. Not a twink, not a twink. Naruto is... Are you going to tell me that you would call Naruto a twink? Are we calling Naruto's a twink? Is Yu-Gi-Oh is a twink? Yu-Gi-Oh's absolutely a twink. Kaiba's a twink. Okay, fine. Yes, a twink. Oh, yes. No, but that's the thing. I will be a good villain. I'll be a villain for good. There's plot. There's trauma planned. I mean... I'm going to take my character and ruin his life, and it is great. It is so great. I'm excited. It's going to be sad. It's going to be fun. It's going to have happy moments and low moments and all sorts of moments. Well, no, I personally have my traumas, but the character is going to start traumatized. All right, well, lovelies. We're getting closer to the end of the stream. I really appreciated hanging out with all of you as always. You've all been so very, very amazing. Yeah, we're gonna do a later stream. Hello, Mia. Thank y'all who've come in today. Don't forget, I post on every platform except Reddit. We have the YouTubes. We have Twitters. Oh, right. I need to get rid of that. Let me hide that. I'm just gonna... There you go. Right. So yes, we've got the Twitters, the YouTube, the Instagram, and the TikTok. TikTok is my primary social media platform I post on for videos. Twitter is my primary communication platform, and Twitch is my primary streaming one. But y'all have been so amazing today. I appreciate you all so very, very, very much. I can't wait to see where we go and where we grow, okay? Mwah. Y'all did so well. You'll survive. Hello, Mia. Hello, Cade. All of you, welcome, welcome, welcome. And let me see if I can find something to raid into. We're gonna raid into Hoshi because Hoshi's always chill. Sorry, buddy, we're gonna raid into Hoshi. You'll be high. Say hi to Hoshi for me. Behave yourselves. Raid message number 2 is the one if you're a sub. The top one. Is something different. So I'll see y'all next time. Oh, and here we go. I'm such a good doggy. And arf arf. I'm such a cute little puppy. And also the uwu. Thank you so much for the redeem. Bye for now.